Intelligent Ramblings with your host, Bill Alton. Co-hosted by Gary Glenn and William Howington with help from John Coleman.
Well, here we are on Intelligent Ramblings, and this is Thoughts on Our World. I'm Bill Lofton. I'm your host with my other co-hosts, Gary Glenn, William Howington, and John Cone. Well, guys, how was your week? Other than cold.
Been a good week.
Yeah, other than cold, so far so good.
So far, so good.
It's not going to last long. As
That's
far
true.
as the cold is concerned. And now we
That
just
is
got
very
rain.
true.
I don't know where it is, like where you guys are, but right here it's just clammy and foggy. Just nasty.
It's
what
pretty
we got.
nasty here as well. Well, I guess the biggest thing on the agenda is Trump wins New Hampshire.
Well, we got North Hampshire too.
They got North Hampshire as well, I'm sure. Well, he won it, but it seems that they just said, okay, he won New Hampshire, so it's over. Well, the only problem with that is the fact that Nikki Haley got 9 delegates and he got 12. So she's only 3 delegates behind him in a state that he overwhelmingly won. He even called Nikki Haley an imposter and whatnot. I don't understand that. Anybody got any thoughts on?
Well, it seems to have gotten to him because he had a lot of bad things to say about her today.
No, she's gotten under his skin. And,
He needs to just make her the running mate.
She's already said she didn't want anything to do with his ass.
Well, he'll have to go elsewhere.
Well,
maybe DeSantis.
Everybody's trying to say it's over, and I'll tell you, if she doesn't carry her home state, if she doesn't carry South Carolina, then it probably is over. And you're headed for a Biden-Trump rematch. 2 old farts going head to head again.
Just what we don't want.
In a nation of 332 million people, this is what you get, folks.
This is what we've got.
We got 2 old guys. Lovely. Just what we need.
What's that? There's a line. We just got through with the Christmas season. You guys know that song, I Believe in Father Christmas by Greg Lake. There's a line in that says, the Christmas we get, we deserve, or something like that.
Yeah.
The people we get, we deserve. If we didn't, we wouldn't elect them.
I don't understand. Out of 332 million, we can't find anybody willing to serve as president that's not 80 years old.
Well, it's because of it's all the crap, Bill. People that would really do good in that job don't want it because they don't want to fool with all this stuff that you have to do and put up with, and that's sad. We've gone from citizens willing to serve to people who've made it a profession.
Yeah.
And that's never what it was designed to be. Never.
Well, they get into politics and they start making money and they say, oh, wait a minute, I can do nothing basically and rake in a big check. Maybe they ought to cut the salaries a little bit and make it, to where it's people that actually want to serve, that actually want to do something for their country.
Well, it's only $400,000 for the president.
That's true.
That's not very much. It's
No.
a lot for me, but it's not much for what they do.
Well, Brendan says the elite do not want leadership. Come on, guys. No, they want a puppet. That's what they're looking for, a puppet.
A lot of the
Well, I
wealthy
think
people
the rest of the folks that are not elite, the 99%, do want leadership and they deserve really good leadership. And we're just not getting it.
Oh, that's a shame.
William, do you have any thoughts on who Trump's running mate might be? Do you know who he might choose
I
as a
don't know. I
running mate?
kind of want DeSantis, but You never know what Trump's thinking.
I think
No
DeSantis is
no truer
toast.
words were ever spoken. You never know what he's thinking. That's absolutely true. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Other than thinking, how can I make more money for myself at the expense of the American people?
No, I don't think he thinks that. I don't think he made
thinks
any
that.
money.
I don't think he thinks that either. I think it's all about for Trump. It's all about ego and power.
Yeah,
Money's secondary.
I would have to go with the ego answer, Gary. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, he won 54.4% to Haley got 43%. That's not a landslide. That's pretty damn close, within 11 points. I don't see how you can say that, call her an imposter. I mean, that he's not a gracious winner.
No, he's not.
That at all. And he's not a gracious loser. He's not a gracious person. He's an asshole. We all know that. We have to admit to that. Whether or not he does things he should as a president, he's still going to be a real. He's just not a nice person in any sense of the word.
No, he's not, but he makes a good president.
Yeah.
I mean, he had everything going for us.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I'll have to admit, when we got COVID, he was the one that suggested that we inject ourselves with what was he going? We weren't supposed to inject ourselves with alcohol or bleach. I mean, he did come up with that medical miracle. Yeah, but the problem is when he said it with a straight face, and he also never came back and said I was kidding until somebody was already dead from trying it. And then you got the small, little bitty trying to overthrow the government at the end of his thing that kind of gives you a sour taste in your mouth. That when the ex-president at that point tries to overtake our country, I mean, and then it's a little bit. I mean, I admit he did a few good things, but he handled everything.
He did a lot of good things. He just did some stupid things.
Here's the thing. He did a lot of that too, and then wouldn't own up to it. Here's the thing. People are asking the question that has been asked in politics for a long time: are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the answer to that, in a lot of ways, we are not. Now, how much of that belongs to Trump and how much of that belongs to Biden is a matter of debate. But as we all know, perception is at least as important as reality, and people perceive that they were better. This is why he keeps racking up these victories in these presidential primaries. Now, remember, this is a primary. It's not a general election, and much remains to be seen after that. The Trumpians and the Democrats, the far left and the far right, are not going to carry this presidential election in November. It is all of the moderates and the independents that are going to sway it one way or the other.
Well, Brendan, I do understand why you said this about the MSNBC headline ramblings, because we are not pro-Trump with the exception of one. And that may make us leaning that way, but that's why we got people like you, Brendan, to come in and disagree with us. Not that we care, but you can disagree.
Sure, and disagree agreeably.
Well, I think he'd make a good president again, and I just wished he would calm down a little bit.
I don't think that's in his nature.
What are you?
Yes, probably not.
What are you sucking on there, Billy?
That's a vape. It keeps me from. I had a nicotine habit for the last 30 years where I smoked cigarettes, and I wanted to do something that would benefit me health-wise. Is this good for you? No. But it's a lot better than smoking a cigarette. and it's a vape.
I'm not sure it's that much better. You still got lots of chemicals in that stuff.
You got chemicals in it, but you've got 2,000 chemicals in. You got 2,000 chemicals in a cigarette, and you got about 5 in this one. So you're cutting down on it substantially. And I've gave up everything else. I don't have a fast car. I don't stay out late at night anymore. I don't drink like a fish. So I'm not. This is about the last thing I got left. Let's go, Brandon. Jay Johnson. Okay, Jay. We know where you're holding that on that part.
There's room in the country for debate.
Well, like we said many times before, 2 of us are Democrats, 2 of us are Republicans. I mean, 1 of us is a Democrat, 1's a Republican, and 2 are independents. So we do have a mixed view on popcorn lung. Well, okay, popcorn lung. Let me tell you about that. That comes from getting the juice that goes in these from people that are not, like you go to a convenience store and you buy some juice, or somebody gives you some juice to put in this thing. That will give you popcorn lord. I've been vaping now for about 4 years. And I just did a last spring I did a 14-mile hike. So, get over it.
I can't do a 14-mile hike.
I can. I'm going to do another one this year. Actually, in the next probably month or 2, I'm going to do another. I got 2 14-mile hikes to do. Well, the U.S. is striking back. They hit strikes in Iraq and Yemen. That makes me wonder if that's going to explode over there into a war with us and Iran, because what we're hitting in Iraq and Yemen are the Iran-backed forces. Do you think that's going to widen the war, or in Israel, or do you think that we're going to just hit them for a while and back off if they do, or do you think we're going to go off both feet in?
I think it's already widened the war. Maybe not a whole lot. Maybe not as badly as you might hear on the news, but it was bound to spread out once it got started in Gaza. I mean, they've had trouble with Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen, and maybe something else is going to crop up somewhere else, but it was bound to get wider.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't get too much wider. I don't think we ought to send ground troops in, but we may have to.
Right.
I don't know whether or not Biden has the fortitude or not.
Well, he's ordered either 9 or 10 strikes at last count against the Houthis in Yemen, just there, and also some 2 or 3 in Iraq. So I don't think there's a question about that. I think he's doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, and he's not jumping too high. He's not jumping too high, but he's getting a point across to him.
Well, you got to protect your interests. No question about that. I would be surprised if you see ground troops over there anytime soon, unless something really, really drastic happens. Right now, the Israelis seem pretty content on carrying out their agenda that they had from the very beginning. That's to wipe out Hamas, no matter who or what gets in their way. I wish they would be more amenable to a 2-state solution to all of this. Right now, Netanyahu is insisting that will never happen. We'll see. Because his popularity in his home country is not what it once was either. Put it that way. They're getting tired of this. People are we fought World War II from what 1941 to 1945, 4 years, and people now they're not going to put up with any more. I don't think Vietnams or Afghanistan's where it seems like it'll never end. Get in and get out. Hit them hard, hit them fast, do the job, and get out. We can't mess around. So sometimes these people, and it's. I mean, I'm a very peaceful man, but sometimes all somebody understands is consequences. Let's put it that way.
You know, that was Bush's greatest failure, was the fact that he didn't have a out plan. He had an in plan, but he didn't have an out plan. So we got stuck there for 20 years. Well, what do you guys think about the fact that? Go ahead, William.
I was going to say we need to bomb them back to the Stone Ages, like General Curtis LeMay said, but that was Vietnam.
Well, they just go underground. They go underground.
Well, we first began to see.
Once again, go ahead, Gary.
We began to see in Vietnam precisely what we're seeing these other places. You can't distinguish the enemy combatants from the civilians. They just blend in.
Yeah, at least when we were fighting Nazi Germany, you could tell a German by his uniform.
Right.
You know, I mean, there was
uniform war that it's not anymore.
No. The only ones wearing uniforms is us, so we're easy targets. Maybe we ought to quit wearing uniforms and blend in a little bit better. First, what do you think about this? In Alabama, they're going to have the first execution via nitrogen gas. It was okayed by the Supreme Court, and the guy they're fixing to execute was a horrible person and committed a horrible murder. He deserves to be put in a hole and covered up, no doubt. But first, nitrogen. Anybody ever heard of it? I've never heard of executing somebody with nitrogen. It's got to be horrible. What it does is it takes your breath away. So you basically suffocate.
Yeah, you suffocate without oxygen. Yep. Nitrogen is 78% of the air, but it's an inert gas and it doesn't do anything. It just goes in your lungs and out your lungs. You got to have that oxygen to live. Without it, okay. So you're right. May as well put them in a room with no air.
Wasn't that the gas that escaped from that chicken plant?
That was liquid nitrogen.
Liquid nitrogen, yeah.
Right, but it produced nitrogen gas, and that's why they couldn't breathe either. That's because
they took away the oxygen.
Right, took the oxygen out of that. Well, that's exactly what they're going to do with this guy. Well, they've been the gas chamber before, but it was a different kind of gas. And the reason they're doing it with this guy is because when they tried to execute him with lethal injection, they couldn't get the right stuff, and he laid on the table for like 4 hours and didn't die.
You would think you could come up with something lethal. Use Trump's bleach.
That's good, William.
You could make the argument that if you didn't execute me the first time, all bets are off. I'm a free man. You had your chance.
I don't know about free. I would say you would be in prison with no possibility of parole forever, but not free.
Well, the Constitution guarantees you against double jeopardy, but it doesn't say anything about double execution.
Double execution.
Doesn't say anything about that. Doesn't address that.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes. This might be a coming thing.
Well, I think Alabama has that on the books too, don't they? That they can off you with nitrogen gas.
That's what we're talking about here, Alabama.
We're talking about.
Well, there's somewhere else. There's somewhere else though that has it too. Is it Mississippi? There were 2 or 3 states where this is legal now, but it's only Alabama that's going to try it.
By the way, here's a little side note, a story from the past. I used to work in software and IT a long time ago, and I worked with computers that were the size of your refrigerator, and they required a lot of coolant. And if the one of the ways that they would keep the computers cool in an emergency is to release nitrogen gas in the. Oh, this was a fire emergency. Okay, so what they would do is release nitrogen gas into the computer room that's up on a raised floor, and if there was a fire, they would flood the room with nitrogen gas. All the oxygen is driven out of the room. The fire goes out within seconds. And I can't tell you how many times we were told when the fire alarm goes off, do not stay in this room or you will die. And it won't be because you'll burn up. It'll be because you'll suffocate, just like this guy in Alabama is doing. True
It'd
story.
be interesting to hear the results.
Right, and how long is it going to take?
I don't think it'll take. Well, he'll be out of oxygen in a matter of seconds. So, however long it takes to suffocate after that.
How do they kill dogs in an animal shelter? Why don't they use that? That's gotta be humane, or Peter would be all over them.
That's the same. No, that's the same stuff that's lethal injection. When I talk about putting them to sleep, well, yeah, and it's permanent. They just inject them with something with the chemicals that'll do that. Stops their heart.
Why don't they do that?
Well, again, they tried that. They couldn't get the right combination of chemicals. It's supposed to be legal now, and it didn't work.
Remember, this is Alabama we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Sweet
home
said
Alabama.
That. You said that.
You would think we could come up with some kind of lethal injection, though.
Well, they had a formula, and many of the states used it, and the pharmaceutical companies aren't on board with capital punishment. They don't want, they don't want people being killed with their products. And so they can't get the ingredients that they used to get to make the injections with. So now they're having to do this kind of stuff. Kind of makes you wonder about, is it a topic for a whole nother show, but capital punishment. I mean, do you want the government to, should we really be in the business of executing people?
I'm against it. The problem I have with it is they make mistakes. And you can see now that there are so many people, due to DNA and all that stuff, that are being let out of prison 20 years later. And so if you have any possible chance that you're going to execute a man that's not guilty, then you can't justify it, in my mind.
Well, you only do it if the 100% doubt is out of the question.
Yeah, I think it's got to be very rare, and the evidence has to be conclusive, not circumstantial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? I missed that.
Brandon said he was going to get canceled for watching this live stream. And Jay said, laugh out loud, or LOL.
It's going to be way worse than that, Brandon. Sorry.
Brandon
you don't know
is.
what you're letting yourself in for.
Yeah. We all just are going to wish we were getting canceled instead of what's going to happen to us. We're all on lists right now, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, we're on the list. The UAW endorses Biden. Ooh,
Of course they will.
That's a bunch of people. I mean, that's a big endorsement.
Well, the Democrats have always been pro-union. That doesn't surprise me in the least.
That's one problem I got with the Democrats is I'm not pro-union. Never have been. I don't need somebody else making my decisions for me at work.
No, that ought to change something.
I think it's a big positive for Joe Biden that he got that endorsement today.
Yeah.
Like Bill says, that's a lot of votes that are going his way because of that endorsement.
Well, you know, like I said, I would much rather see Nikki Haley in the seat to go against Biden, and I think that's the only way that the Republicans are going to win, because they've had people that have tried to figure this out, and Nikki Haley on a head-to-head with Biden wins, and by about 4 or 5 points, and the head-to-head Trump versus Biden, Trump loses, or it's real closer. It's right, they're pretty much even. And I don't understand why the Republicans don't see that the fact that Nikki Haley could beat Biden. Because I'm gonna tell you who's gonna change this, who's gonna change it, who is gonna matter in this election is gonna be the independents. And Trump ain't never gonna get the independents. It ain't
That's
happening.
what I just said a while ago. It's not going to be the far left and the far right. It's going to be the moderates and those that are in the middle. That's going to decide this election.
Yeah.
I don't see how
They
they can
proceed.
vote for Biden. I just don't see it, but I know they will. We got lots of people that'll vote for him, but I mean, he's too old. He's too liberal, and he just doesn't make
Trump's
a good
old.
president.
Trump's
Yeah, but
old.
Trump's
Yeah, he's 70.
Oh.
Biden's
in
81.
this country.
He was criticizing Nancy Pelosi, but was using Nikki Haley's name last week, and it
He
went
gets
on
stuff
for about
mixed
10
up.
minutes.
He gets this
It
stuff
got mixed up. There you go. We don't need a president that gets mixed up. He gets mixed up. Ooh, I just launched an atomic weapon against Canada. I mixed them up with Russia. Oops.
No, he wouldn't do that.
You know,
There's fail-safes.
That we can't do that.
Oh, well.
How about the Supreme Court voting 5-4 to allow the Border Patrol to cut down the concertina wire that Texas put up to keep the illegal aliens out?
I disagree with that. I think a state ought to be able to take care of itself, and that's way that's
Texas
what I feel.
Put it up to keep them out. And since they stopped that big wall, they put that 3 layers of concertina wire to keep them from coming across the border.
Yeah, that's my best argument.
Well, I happen to agree with that decision because Texas gets to do what they want to with regard to immigration up to a point, but the federal government in matters of immigration makes the rules. And like it or not, the Supreme Court knows that, and they had to vote that way.
John, as
I
rarity
think
as
y'all be able to
it
protect your
seems,
border.
I absolutely believe you ought to be able to protect your border. I don't think that the federal government's doing nothing about it, and I think that if Trump could have got that wall built, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But you know, it was a lot of talk, and it didn't happen. But I absolutely believe in states' rights, and you have a right to protect yourself. And the problem is the fact that these people are coming in. 10 or 12% of them are not good people, and they're coming in and they're raping and pillaging our educational system. They're raping and pillaging in our medical system, and they're getting everything for free. And it's for people, hardworking people like you and me and all these other people out here. It's ridiculous, and I'm hardcore right wing when it comes to the border. I don't. Border reform is way up on my list.
Well, you could go back to our show number 1, number 2, or number 3. I can't remember which it was, where I said we need an immigration policy. We haven't had one in this country for 50 years. And so it's not like I disagree with you, but the law says Texas can't do that. Do we need a wall? Maybe we do. Do we need immigration reform? Absolutely. Do we need for Texas to go out on their own and do stuff that, like they're doing? No, they don't get to do that.
Well, John, what if there happened to be a immigration situation in Georgia, and you look down in Augusta, and all of a sudden you have 1 million people come in the last 6 months, and they're from God only knows where, but they're letting them in droves. What's that going to do to Augusta? It's going to make it worse than it already is, and it's going to.
Which would be hard to do, except for the golf course, obviously. But I mean, it's a
can't have the
bad
Masters.
situation.
Masters,
I'm not disagreeing with you about that.
The Masters is no longer happens because they're letting the immigrants sleep on the Masters golf course. That's where they're putting them because it's a big wide open space. They put a bunch of tents.
If you don't have a coordinated immigration policy, if you don't have a well thought out policy, if all your policy is just yelling about building a wall or driving them out, then it's not going to be effective. If you have a good comprehensive immigration policy, then you're a lot better able to deal with stuff like that. And it could, I can see it happening, just exactly what you're saying, Bill. Good example. But anyway,
wasn't the last person that issued a lot of blanket amnesty, wasn't that Ronald Reagan?
I think I remember that, Gary.
Well, there you go. So it's on both sides of the aisle. Nobody's had the guts to
multiple
stand up
presidents
and do something.
from multiple parties, and we're still without a policy because Congress doesn't have the kahunas to take it up and deal with it.
Some hard choices are going to have to be made. I mean, they really, really are.
Well, it's amazing the numbers because I've watched them and I've looked at it at the numbers of the people coming into our country, and it's mind-boggling. We're getting like 100,000 in 2 weeks, and that's true. It's mind-boggling how many people are coming in our country. And
it was never set up to deal with that, with something of that scale.
I think they ought to hand them a piece of paper, and they need to fill out a form when they come in and apply for citizenship on the spot, or turn around and go back. And by God, fly the American flag. I don't want to see a Mexican flag flying in this country, or an Argentinian, or a Chilean, whatever you want to say it, flag. I don't care where you're from. Once you come in this country, you better be flying an American flag or get the hell out of our country.
That's right.
I got no use for your ass.
America.
That sounds like a Republican.
America. Yes, sir. Well, I'm not a Republican. Well, looks like the Boeing CEO is in Washington, D.C. answering some questions about that door flying off. Obviously, our laws aren't being enforced, and reforming happened in the last 3 years. Immigration is lowest premium admin for it works. Well, he didn't, Trump didn't do diddly-do about it either, so you can't blame this one on him.
Well, that ain't Trump's fault. He tried. The Democrats halted it. They stopped the wall, and they stopped the whole policy of not letting them in, which is what we need to do. Don't let anybody in until they
don't fall for that wall bullshit. Okay,
Why?
That's grandstanding and all politics. It's not going to solve the problem.
Well, keep them from just flooding across the border.
Well, right,
They might have
there,
one or two
but,
sneak over it.
Well, walls can either be broken through, tunneled under, or gone over.
Then you got armed
You've got
guards
to have
down there
something
that
in place,
shoot.
and well, yeah, but they're just going to go further down the Rio Grande and come across somewhere else. I'm not going to go across a place where they're armed guards who'll shoot me. I'm going to find some place that I can sneak across.
Yeah,
You're gonna put a wall up in
find
Canada?
another way.
You're going to put a
Now,
wall
you
in
don't need
Canada?
a wall up in Canada. Canada's got you can't get into Canada hardly. And if you do, you're not getting anything.
You're going to put a wall down in Mississippi, and a wall in Alabama, and a wall
No.
in Florida, and a wall in Texas.
No, we got boats for that.
We're going to have to put a dome. That's what we need is a dome. Put a dome over us and just lock it down. And there we go.
Science fiction.
They've done it on TV. They did it on TV. Why can't we do it here? Anyway,
Yeah.
Let's live in a bubble.
let's live in a bubble. I would like that.
No thanks.
Well, a couple comments. Nobody's talking about we're talking about enforcing our nation's policies. Wall bullshit. I will have to agree with that. Of course, it would slow them way the hell down. Okay, we got some comments on that. Why don't we move on to our next section of the show, and about right now.
I guess that's me. When I first got into education, in high school education, I had taught it for now, but when I first got into high school education, you won't believe this, but I taught a whole bunch of different subjects. I taught my broadcasting, but I also taught English lit and composition. I taught world history, and I taught economics. And I didn't have an assistant wrestling coach. Well, it just about killed me. So by the next year, I kind of worked that out and went and got me an assistant wrestling coach. Fellow from Mississippi, we G-Haw just fine. I think he was born in Louisiana, but raised in Mississippi, or was working in Mississippi. His name was Carl Cole. And I said, Carl, would you help me coach wrestling? Didn't know much about wrestling, but he loved the sport. And he said, yes, almost immediately. And I said, I used to think Carl Cole was a smart man until he said that. Well, I'll tell you what, Carl Cole is a smart man. He and I got talking the other day, and he said something I thought was very cogent. He said, some of the problems we're having, a lot of the problems we're having today, matter of fact, maybe most of them, are the fact that back a few years ago, and it hadn't been that many years ago, we can remember it, we all had a shared history. We could relate to the same things. And now, because of things like immigration and because of things like social media, which is sort of an oxymoron because it seems to force you farther apart than it does put you together, that shared history is not there anymore. So it's hard to get a sense of community and a sense of consensus about much of anything. We all agree that some of these problems need to be solved. We all agree that some of these things need to be addressed. And when one side comes up with it, with a possible solution, the other side says, no, that won't work. Although 5 years ago, we said what you're saying now, and you said it wouldn't work. See, that sort of hypocrisy just drives me nuts. Come on, folks. We're all adults. Let's act like it. Let's get in the room together, put our heads together, and come up with some of these things. We got lots of smart people in this country, although sometimes they're hard to find, it seems. We can put our heads together and come up with something reasonable about education reform, immigration reform, maybe even the tough issues such as abortion. We could come up with some reasonable compromises if we just want to, and quit hating each other just because they're the other guy and we've got some label on us that you've been put. Liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, whatever. Come up with a label and attack it because you're that label, not because you're a person. Don't hate me because I'm a whatever. You can like me or not like me, because of the things that I do or don't do. That's my timeout. Thanks, viewers. I'm Gary Glenn.
This webcast is brought to you by William Lofton Photography. They can be found at williamlofton.com. Offering event residential portraiture at williamlofton.com.
Okay, is it my turn? I guess it is. So what we're going to talk about today is inequality, and specifically we're going to talk about wealth inequality. It's an important topic, and we got a lot of ground to cover in 3 minutes. So let's answer the question, what kind of wealth are we talking about? We're talking about capital wealth, your net worth, versus income wealth. And wealth inequality happens when one segment of society has a disproportionate share of the overall wealth in the country. So what I want to do is talk about a little formula, and the formula is really simple. It's R is greater than G. And this is where R is the return on capital and G is the growth rate of the economy. So in the past, like the past 300 years, the return on capital, the R value, has been persistently greater than the growth rate of the economy, the G value. So what that means is that a disproportionate amount of growth that's happening between capital and the rest of the economy is going to those that are the owners of capital, the capitalists. And that ownership takes the form of real estate, companies, stock, bonds, you name it. It's boils down to net worth that you and I know about. So let's go to a quick example of what happens when R is greater than G. If you take $1,000 and you invest it at 5% over 10 years, what you get back at the end of 10 years is $1,629. You do the math, but that's the answer. So that's the R side of the equation. Let's say the G side of the equation is only growing at 2%, not 5%, but 2%. So $1,000 invested at 2% over 10 years gets you back $1,219 at the end of 10 years. So the fact that capital is growing at a rate of 5% means that after 10 years, you've accrued $400 more than the income side, the growth rate side of the economy has accrued. Over a lifetime, over 40, 50, 60 years, this turns into a really big disproportionate advantage. And that is why that is one of the reasons why we've got 1% of the population controlling 70, 80, 90% of the capital, the wealth in the country. So that's it in a nutshell. There are some solutions to resolving this. It's been talked about most recently by a guy named Thomas Piketty, who wrote Capital in the 21st Century. It's a great book. It was written 10 years ago. It applied then, it applies now, it's going to apply in 10 more years. It's a really well done set of research and theory with solutions in it. Because the effect of this inequality is that we get in situations like we have now, where the 1% effectively control enough of the capital in the economy that they do it to everyone else's detriment. The solutions that we're talking about mostly involve taxes, and Dr. Piketty in his book goes through those. I'm going to save those exciting topics for another show. Also, once again, if you have any questions or want to get references to what I'm talking about, please let us know. Put something in the comments, send us an email, and we will absolutely respond to you. Okay, thank you for your patience, and talk to you next time.
All right, we'll start off this segment of the show with the NFL. This past Sunday, in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Buffalo Bills 27-24 in probably the most exciting game of the weekend. There were 4 lead changes in that, and the Bills missed a 41-yard field goal as time was getting short to wide right, and they ended up losing. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Houston Texans 34-10. They're the number 1 seed. In the NFC, the Detroit Lions beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-23. And in the other game, the number 1 seed in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers beat the Green Bay Packers 24-21 in another exciting game. This Sunday at 3 o'clock, the Chiefs will take on the Ravens at Baltimore. And at 6:30, the Lions will take on the 49ers in San Francisco. February 11th is the Super Bowl at 6:30 p.m. So looking forward to that. The winners of these 2 games will be in the Super Bowl. In golf, Nick Dunlap, a 20-year-old sophomore at the University of Alabama, won the PGA Tour's American Express Championship, becomes the first amateur in 33 years to win a professional golf tournament. The last person to do this was lefty Phil Mickelson in 1991. In local sports, the University of Georgia men lost to Kentucky 105-96. It was close there for a while, but Kentucky overwhelmed them. On a sad note, we say goodbye to Q, better known as Ugga 10, who was a 10-year-old English bulldog from Savannah. He passed away this week, and he's the most winningest bulldog in University of Georgia history. He won 2 national championships and has the best record. In the NBA, the Boston Celtics lead the Eastern Conference with a record of 34-10. The Hawks are 10th at 18-25. Come on, Hawks, you can do better than that. And in the Western Conference, it's a virtual 3-way tie for first, with Oklahoma City Thunder, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Denver Nuggets all in a 3-way tie. Now, I have a little time left. In local sports, in high school wrestling, Lumpkin County won the AAA state championship in the dual tournament. North Hall got second in 4A, while Chestatee out of Gainesville got fourth. Central Carrollton won it with a win over North Hall in the finals. Beaufort got second after tying Camden County in the championship, but lost on criteria. And in 5A, Jefferson, which never loses a dual state championship, lost and finished fourth. Cass won the tournament. That's all I have for sports. We'll see you next week.
Well, I guess I'm up. And the 3-minute timer just reset for me. Okay, rain, 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 go away. Well, if it's raining where you are, you might as well get used to it because it's going to keep coming and it's going to slow down. Looking at dense fog, flood watches, tornadoes possible, which is kind of crazy. It's January and we're looking at tornadoes. Global warming, go ahead, figure it out. The 22 states are under alert from Texas to Georgia to New York for this thing, and it ain't going to get any. It's not going to get any better for the next couple days. The crazy part is the 21st of this month it was 15 degrees, and the 26th it's 70 degrees. Welcome to Georgia. I got a little time left, so I would just want to ask everybody to walk out to your mailbox and walk 100 yards to the left and then walk 100 yards to the right and pick up some trash. That's all. I mean, it makes a difference, and we're trying to, you got not good people. I won't say any bad words right now, but I'm thinking them. But people that throw trash out are trash, but it's going to happen. So walk 100 yards to the right and 100 yards to the left. Pick up some trash and go throw it in the trash can. Let's clean up our planet. Now we're going to go do some finishing remarks.
I agree. We ought to pick up trash.
Oh, well, we lost Gary. Oh, well. There he is.
Here he comes. Here he is.
Yeah, he was hiding behind a bush somewhere.
I was in on
picking up trash, maybe.
I was on the Serengeti there. You see that? One of those bell
You were hiding behind that tree over there.
That's the circle of life.
Yeah, I wish Billy, you kind of hit on something there. These people that throw trash, they've never been taught that that's a bad thing to do. Apparently. I see it in the schools all the time. I go in the restrooms, and there are paper towels in the sinks, on the floor, and in the urinals. They don't belong there. They belong in the trash can. I went there the other day, and somebody had thrown breakfast biscuits in a couple of urinals. One of them was still in the foil. I don't get it.
They're just low life.
Well, there you go.
I can't for the life of me. I can't understand it where you would just chunk something out your car. But I live on a cul-de-sac, and you can pretty well count on it. Every once in a while, I walk on my cul-de-sac a lot when I'm out working out, and I just pick it up, and I've been piling it. There's a sign down at the bottom of my street that says, "Beware of children," or whatever. And I just take it and I hang it on the sign if it comes off our cul-de-sac. That way, if somebody in my cul-de-sac is throwing it out, I make sure they look at it for a month or two. But I inevitably get trash thrown from the street as people are going by. And it's on a regular basis. But I do pick up trash, and I do it on a regular basis.
Gary, does this go back to some of what you were saying earlier that your friend, your assistant wrestling coach was talking about?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's well, my father was a World War II era Marine, okay? And when he said to go out and act like somebody, I knew what he was talking about. Act like somebody who's had some raising, somebody who's got some sense, and somebody who's going to try to do the right thing. In the past, the schools were involved and the parents were all together in raising the next generation to be responsible citizens. I'm not sure what we're telling the next generation to be now. If we could ever get them off their damn phones long enough to listen.
I know a lot of other teachers would agree with you right now.
Oh, I see that. I'm preaching to the choir, John, when I talk about this in schools. They all look at me and nod their heads yes, most of them.
Yeah. Because it's true. It's happening.
It is. And well, you know, and that same friend of mine said, you know, America as we know it's just about done. I hope he's wrong. But he said, well, we had a good run. I hope he's wrong.
Well, they just don't have any pride anymore. I don't know what the problem is.
Well, people are not self-motivated, see. You have to motivate them by trying to bribe them to do something or punish them if they don't. You know, a lot of us, we did things just because we wanted to do a good job. We had that kind of self-pride and self-motivation. I'm not sure what motivates people anymore. Carrots and sticks. It's a shame you have to do that.
And one last comment on my vape. What I need people to do is think about the old guy with his pipe. It's the same thing, but it's better for you than a pipe. Not good for you, but better. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, one thing before we go, I had, you know, and it proves how mortal we all are and how, you know, we're all getting a little older. And probably our yesterdays are more than our tomorrows, but I had one girl that I taught in 9th grade literature, English lit and composition, pass away in the last several days, and that really hit me pretty hard to realize that you know life is short. So be nice to people, folks, and maybe they'll be nice to you.
Absolutely. I hope everybody has a good week. I hope the tornadoes steer away from us, and I hope everybody has a pleasant week. What am I going to say? And we will catch you next time on Intelligent Ramblings.
1 week from today.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Same bat time, same bat channel.